You worry because you believe control lies outside you. But here is the truth: worry is the mind's way of pretending to have power while surrendering it. The anxious man plots 1,000 futures and conquers none. The calm one moves once, precisely and decisively, and all falls into place. This video will teach you how to stop leaking your power through worry and start bending events to your will. Imagine standing before chaos, while others tremble at every uncertain whisper of fate. You, however, remain still, unmoved, calculating, serene. The world mistakes your calm for luck, but in truth it is strategy. For the man who no longer fears the uncertain becomes the only one capable of shaping it. This is not a lesson in peace, it is a lesson in dominance through composure. When emotion dies, perception sharpens. When worry is silenced, manipulation becomes effortless. Tonight, you will learn why detachment is not weakness. It is your most silent weapon. You worry because you think it gives you control. But tell me, has it ever changed an outcome? Has anxiety ever bent reality to your will? No. Worry is the illusion of motion while standing still. It is the trembling hand of a servant who believes fear equals foresight. History has no record of the anxious ruling empires. Kings, conquerors, and manipulators, those who shaped the world, did not waste their nights imagining every disaster that might occur. They accepted one brutal truth: control is not taken through emotion, it is seized through clarity. Consider Caesar crossing the Rubicon. He knew the cost: rebellion, exile, perhaps death. But he crossed anyway. Not because he knew what would happen, but because he refused to be ruled by the uncertainty of it. The coward waits for certainty. The strategist moves before it exists. That is why the world remembers one name and forgets 1,000 others who stayed behind, paralyzed by the safety of their own hesitation. You see, worry is the mind's counterfeit version of planning. It feels like preparation, but it is paralysis disguised as prudence. The worrier endlessly constructs scenarios that never arrive, preparing defenses for battles that never occur. He is like the soldier who sharpens his sword every day but never enters the field. The metal gleams, but his courage rusts. And while he worries, another man, calmer, colder, acts. He takes the ground the worrier was too afraid to step on. This is the quiet brutality of power. It does not wait for reassurance. It rewards decisiveness, not comfort. The anxious man's greatest weakness is not fear. It is the belief that fear is useful. He believes his trembling gives him insight. He calls his indecision wisdom. But wisdom is not born from fear. It is born from detachment, an ability to look at chaos without flinching. The Stoics understood this long before psychology gave it language. Marcus Aurelius ruled the greatest empire in history while writing nightly to remind himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Even an emperor needed to remember. Worry is rebellion against reality. It is the refusal to accept that control begins where illusion ends. You must understand, the world does not bend to those who wish. It bends to those who decide. When you act with conviction, people mistake it for destiny. When you hesitate, they sense weakness. And power flows to whoever fills the void your worry created. Observe any workplace, any political circle, any relationship. The one who appears calm becomes the center of gravity. Even when they lack full control, their composure creates the illusion of it. And illusions, when maintained long enough, become truth. That is the paradox of power. You stop worrying, not when you gain control, but when you realize you never needed it. You only needed command over yourself. Worry, on the other hand, is internal mutiny. It divides your mind into factions, each arguing, each fearing, none ruling. And in that confusion, you lose sovereignty over your thoughts. The manipulator knows this. He feeds you uncertainty, plants doubts, whispers, "What if?" into your ear until your will fractures under the weight of imagined disasters. He doesn't have to fight you. He lets your worry do the work. Think of it this way: if someone can make you anxious, they can make you obedient. If they can control your emotional temperature, they can predict your reactions. And once you are predictable, you are powerless. To escape this, you must see worry for what it is: not a shield, but a leash. Every time you overthink, you tighten it around your own neck. You hand over your focus, your strength, your time, to possibilities that may never exist. Meanwhile, life's real battles go unguarded. So the next time your mind begins to spiral, ask yourself, is this thought an act of control or surrender? Am I leading my mind or being led by it? The powerful do not waste energy on ghosts. They act within the tangible, they rule what is real. And when they face uncertainty, they smile. Not because they are fearless, but because they understand fear's true function, to be mastered, not indulged. Remember this: the warrior seeks control over the world. The strategist seeks control over himself. And the latter always wins, because once the mind submits to order, the world begins to follow. Now, imagine a life where worry no longer dictates your movements, where calmness becomes your weapon and emotion obeys reason. Power belongs to the one who feels least and observes most. Emotion, though worshipped by poets, has always been the executioner of kings. The man who cannot control his feelings cannot control perception. And perception, more than truth, is what rules the world. When you grow angry, you reveal your weakness. When you panic, you announce your limits. When you crave approval, you hand over your power. Those who command themselves, command others. This is the essence of emotional neutrality, the ability to remain unshaken while others drown in their passions. It is not numbness. It is weaponized calmness. A quiet state that allows you to calculate, manipulate, and conquer without noise. Consider the courts of Renaissance Italy. Plots, betrayals, and shifting loyalties turned every dinner into a battlefield. Yet the man who survived was never the loudest or the most passionate. It was the one who smiled when insulted, nodded when threatened, and waited until every fool had revealed himself. Emotion makes men transparent. Calmness makes you invisible. Think of it. How often do people reveal their intentions by how they feel? A flash of irritation, a moment of envy, a desperate need to justify. In every outburst, they expose the blueprint of their mind. The manipulator listens, watches, and files it away like ammunition. The more you react, the more predictable you become. A master strategist studies emotion not to feel it, but to use it. He reads anger as opportunity, fear as leverage, love as distraction. He doesn't drown in the waves. He rides them, quietly steering the current toward his end. That is the cold art of influence. In psychology, we call it emotional regulation. In the language of power, it is self-sovereignty. To hold your composure when provoked is not repression. It is command. Because the moment your feelings dictate your actions, someone else dictates you. Let us look at history's great tacticians. When Napoleon faced the chaos of battle, his officers said his face never changed. Shells exploded around him. He gave orders as if reciting poetry. That composure made him mythic. His soldiers believed him touched by fate. What they called destiny was simply control. He understood that fear is contagious, but so is calm. In every hierarchy, the emotionally stable man becomes the axis around which others spin. Now contrast that with the weak leader, the one who yells, panics, or seeks validation from the crowd. Such a man rules nothing. His subjects obey out of fear today and betray him tomorrow. His emotions expose his desperation, and the vultures gather. Even love, when ungoverned, becomes a liability. History is littered with rulers undone not by enemies, but by their own affection for those who used them. You see, neutrality is not the absence of feeling. It is the mastery of response. It is the art of letting nothing disturb your core while you quietly assess how every emotion around you can serve your objective. The calm man listens while others talk themselves into ruin. He waits while they grow restless, and when the time comes, he moves, cleanly, precisely, without hesitation. In human relationships, this same law applies. The one who needs less always controls the one who needs more. If you can remain composed while others seek reaction, you become their mirror. They project, you reflect. And in that reflection, they begin to doubt themselves. Doubt, once planted, is more powerful than argument. It corrodes from within. This is why manipulation often appears effortless to those who master neutrality. Because emotion blinds, while detachment illuminates. The calm mind sees patterns the emotional one cannot. And once you see the pattern, you can predict the move before it happens. You can lead without commanding, persuade without pleading, dominate without raising your voice. But neutrality demands sacrifice. It means detaching from validation, praise, and the desperate hunger to be understood. It means enduring misunderstanding with silence, being insulted without reaction, and walking away when others beg for chaos. Only a few can stomach such control, for it feels inhuman. Yet that is precisely why it is divine. So, ask yourself how much of your life has been decided by emotion rather than intention. How many times have you surrendered your advantage just to express how you felt? Each outburst, each overreaction, each moment of impulsive speech, those are the taxes emotion demands for your power. Neutrality frees you from that debt. It is the invisible armor of rulers, the silent weapon of manipulators, the unshakable ground beneath every calculated move. When others scream, you remain still. When they seek your reaction, you give them silence. And that silence becomes your authority. Because power, at its purest form, is the ability to remain calm when everyone else is losing their mind. There are moments when resistance destroys you, not because your cause is weak, but because timing is cruel. Power is not only about strength. It is about knowing when to withdraw, when to let the storm pass, and when to appear defeated so that victory can ripen in silence. This is the law of strategic surrender. To the impatient, it looks like weakness. To the wise, it is the most refined form of control. Ask yourself, how often have you lost simply because you refused to bend? How many times did pride drag you into battles you could have won later? You see, surrender is not always the end. Sometimes it is the pause before domination. History is filled with men who mistook retreat for ruin and died clinging to illusions of strength. Look at Napoleon, whose refusal to yield led him into Russia's frozen grave. Had he known when to stop, he might have ruled Europe for decades. Even brilliance drowns in its own ego. Contrast him with Octavian, later known as Augustus. When the tides of power turned against him, he didn't fight every blow. He retreated, restructured, observed. He let his enemies destroy each other while he played the quiet survivor. And when the dust cleared, he rose. Not as a contender, but as the undisputed ruler of Rome. That is the art of surrender, losing battles to win empires. The psychology behind it is brutal but simple. People equate surrender with submission because they are ruled by emotion. They need to feel dominant, even at the cost of strategy. But the manipulator sees emotion as a weapon, not a weakness. He allows others to believe they have won, because that belief makes them careless. And the careless are always easy to conquer. When you strategically surrender, you grant your opponent a false sense of victory. They lower their guard, reveal their plans, and underestimate your silence. You become the shadow that no one fears until it moves. In relationships, this principle is lethal. When conflict arises, the one who insists on being right loses the upper hand. The one who stays quiet, who appears to concede it, gains the psychological edge. Why? Because silence breeds reflection, and reflection breeds guilt. The manipulator doesn't fight for validation. He lets others destroy themselves in the noise of their own ego. Consider warfare. The greatest generals know that retreat is not defeat, it is repositioning. Sun Tzu wrote that, in yielding, one finds strength. It is a paradox the ordinary mind rejects because the ordinary mind fears appearing small. But those who truly understand power care nothing for appearances. They care for outcomes. You must learn to weaponize humility. Let others call you defeated. Let them laugh. Their laughter is the sound of their guard dropping. The wise man endures ridicule because he knows that time is his accomplice. When the arrogant waste their energy on immediate victories, he waits, collecting information, allies, and leverage. By the time they notice, their strength is scattered and his patience becomes their downfall. Even in daily life, this law reigns. In conversation, let others speak more. Let them believe they've outsmarted you. You gain insight, they gain nothing. In negotiation, concede a small demand to secure a larger one later. Power flows to the one who controls tempo, not the one who controls volume. Strategic surrender is not passive. It is active concealment. It is knowing that every step back can become a weapon when used deliberately. You're not retreating, you're reloading. But this requires a rare quality: detachment from ego. Ego screams, defend yourself. Power whispers, not yet. And in that pause lies mastery. Look at modern politics, business, or social games. The same pattern repeats. Those who rush to prove themselves burn out fast. Those who step back, observe, and wait for the emotional storm to pass, rule when others are exhausted. Victory delayed is still victory. The patient strategist knows that surrender is simply the disguise of patience. You must learn to appear defeated without being destroyed. To smile while others celebrate your supposed downfall. To disappear long enough for them to forget the taste of your threat. And when you return with precision. When the field is silent, when your rivals are unprepared, when the narrative has shifted in your favor. So ask yourself, are you ruled by pride or by purpose? Do you fight to satisfy your ego or to secure your throne? The world belongs not to those who never fall, but to those who know when falling serves the climb. Remember, real power does not resist every blow. It absorbs, redirects, and strikes when no one expects it. Impatience is the hunger of the weak. It reveals desperation, and desperation exposes strategy. The powerful know this. The man who moves too soon is already defeated. You've been taught to act fast, to respond quickly, to chase every opportunity before someone else takes it. But haste is the illusion of progress. It feels like control, yet it is merely panic wearing armor. The truth: power belongs to the one who waits. Not idly, but deliberately. The psychology of delay is not laziness, it is timing as warfare. Each second you withhold action, your rivals reveal more of themselves. Each pause unsettles the impatient. And the longer you remain still, the more their nerves betray them. Have you ever noticed how silence makes others uncomfortable? In conversation, a pause longer than expected pulls truth out of people's mouths. They rush to fill the space, to clarify, justify, over-explain. They reveal what you never asked. That is the essence of psychological delay. Every moment of restraint becomes an instrument of control. History remembers Alexander the Great for his speed, but few recall that his true genius was in waiting for the perfect moment to strike. At Gaugamela, he faced an army 3 times his size, yet he delayed engagement until his enemy's formation fractured from exhaustion and arrogance. Then, with surgical precision, he attacked. The impatient would have charged into ruin. The patient observed, and then conquered. In politics, delay is even deadlier. Catherine de' Medici once faced uprising she could have crushed swiftly, but she chose patience. She let her enemies quarrel, splinter, and expose their ambitions. By the time she acted, her opponents had already weakened themselves. She appeared merciful while orchestrating their quiet destruction. You see, delay is not absence of motion. It is invisible motion. It is the gathering of intelligence, the reading of men, the subtle shifting of perception while others mistake stillness for indecision. The manipulator knows while he waits, others waste energy. Every second he remains calm, his enemies dig their own graves with frantic hands, but waiting requires strength. Your instincts will scream for action. Your pride will demand to be seen. And that is precisely why delay is power. It requires mastery over self before mastery over circumstance. When you delay, you force time to work for you. Your rivals grow restless. They begin to imagine your silence means fear or incompetence. They lower their defenses, believing they have the upper hand. Then, when they least expect it, you strike. Not from emotion, but from position. Even in human relationships, this principle rules. When someone provokes you, delay your response. Silence creates anticipation, and anticipation breeds insecurity. They begin to question their value, their influence over you, and by the time you respond, measured, calm, precise, you've already regained control. The mind craves resolution. By denying it, you hold power over others' peace. Delay becomes a psychological mirror, reflecting their own impatience back at them until it consumes them. Consider the chess master. Every move he makes is slow, deliberate, studied. He lets his opponent celebrate early advances. But behind that calm gaze, he's already seeing 10 moves ahead. Patience, in this way, becomes the architecture of inevitability. There is a reason the serpent coils before it strikes. Tension is not weakness, it is compression. Delay is that coiling of the will, a gathering of energy that releases only when it guarantees the kill. Most people act out of emotion. They fear the silence between opportunities, so they fill it with action. Poorly timed, poorly planned. They chase outcomes to escape their own anxiety, and in doing so, they become predictable. But the patient conqueror understands every premature move gives your strategy away. He does not rush to prove power. He waits to ensure its permanence. In the art of manipulation, time is your most obedient servant. You can exhaust your enemies without touching them. You can drain their confidence with simple stillness. And when they finally crumble under the weight of their own urgency, you appear not as their destroyer, but as the one who simply endured. Delay is also the test of vision. Only those who can see beyond the present moment can afford to wait. The short-sighted demand victory now. The long-sighted build empires that outlive them. You must choose which you wish to be. So when the world pressures you to act, ask yourself who benefits from my speed. Am I moving from strategy or insecurity? Because the one who controls when he moves controls everything that follows. Patience, then, is not submission. It is precision disguised as stillness, and the man who commands time commands perception, outcomes, and eventually, history itself. Now imagine this power applied to chaos itself. When the world erupts and others crumble under uncertainty, you will not resist it. You will use it. Chaos terrifies the ordinary man. He needs clarity, stability, and structure to feel alive. But you, if you wish to rise above him, must learn to see uncertainty not as threat, but as opportunity. Every empire, every dynasty, every revolution was born in confusion, because chaos weakens the masses, but empowers the strategist. When others lose balance, you gain freedom. The world worships order, yet it is in disorder that power changes hands. Uncertainty is the fog that blinds the crowd and conceals your movement. While they scramble for answers, you move unseen. You make decisions they are too afraid to make. You appear courageous, but in truth, you are simply comfortable in the unknown. Ask yourself, why do people fear uncertainty? Because it strips them of illusion. It reveals how little control they truly possess. The average mind would rather live inside a lie of stability than face the raw unpredictability of life, and that is where your advantage begins. When chaos erupts, political upheaval, financial crisis, personal betrayal, the weak seek guidance. They look for someone who seems certain, not necessarily right, just certain. Confidence, in uncertain times, becomes currency. The one who appears sure, even when he is not, gains followers, allies, and trust. This is why rulers throughout history have always created controlled chaos. They understood that uncertainty makes people pliable. Give them confusion, then offer them clarity, and they will kneel. Consider the Roman Emperor Tiberius. He deliberately retreated from the capital, leaving his senators to guess his intentions. Each tried to predict his will, terrified of his silence. He ruled Rome not by decree, but by ambiguity. His absence became a shadow of control. Uncertainty became his throne. The same principle governs modern power. In business, the CEO who thrives in volatile markets gains dominance over those who panic. In relationships, the one who can remain calm in emotional storms becomes the anchor others cling to, because people will always submit to the one who offers stability when their own world is trembling. But this mastery requires a shift in perception. You must stop asking for clarity. Instead, you must create within confusion. See the unknown not as enemy, but as a battlefield without rules, one that favors those bold enough to act. Psychologically, this demands what few possess: adaptability, the ability to remain unshaken while everything familiar collapses. The manipulator thrives here because uncertainty dissolves hierarchies, it levels the field, it erases the scripts others depend on, and in that moment of disorientation, a new order can be written, yours. When you enter a situation where no one knows what to do, resist the impulse to panic. Observe. Silence is your weapon. Let others reveal their desperation. Let them rush, argue, blame. Their fear will expose their priorities, their vulnerabilities. And once you see that, you no longer need certainty. You have leverage. This is how powerful minds survive crisis. They don't predict outcomes, they shape them. They plant ideas, redirect emotions, and use the instability of others as camouflage for their own moves. In chaos, perception becomes the new reality. Whoever controls the narrative controls the direction of fear. There is also a psychological reward to mastering uncertainty. While others crumble from stress, you grow sharper. Your tolerance for volatility expands. And over time, your calm becomes intimidating. People sense that you are different. That while they react, you calculate. This aura alone is power. But beware, the goal is not to eliminate uncertainty. It is to weaponize it. The moment you try to make life predictable, you surrender your advantage. Predictability is comfort, and comfort is control, for someone else. Look at nature. Storms cleanse the air, floods reshape the land, fire renews the forest. Destruction and creation are not opposites, they are partners. So it is with human affairs. Chaos is not your enemy, it is your greatest ally, if you know how to direct it. When you can stand still while others tremble, you become the pillar they rely on. When you speak with calm during panic, you become the voice they follow. And when you turn their uncertainty into your confidence, you ascend without resistance. So the next time your life descends into disorder, when plans fail, allies betray, or fate turns dark, don't flinch. Ask instead, what advantage hides within this confusion? Because every crisis conceals a crown, and every collapse conceals a throne. The world was never meant to be certain. It was meant to be ruled by those who can thrive when it isn't. Control is not taken, it is given. Given by those who believe they still possess it. The true manipulator never forces obedience, he plants the illusion of choice. You do not command people by shouting louder. You command them by guiding what they believe to be their own thoughts. Influence is invisible when it feels internal. And the mind that controls perception never needs to control action. Remember this, the greatest ruler does not rule with chains, but with ideas. He does not demand loyalty, he makes others fear losing his approval. He does not reveal his strategy, he lets others mistake his silence for wisdom. So ask yourself, are you moving people or being moved by them? Are you the player or the piece? If this message cut through your illusions, leave your thoughts below. Subscribe for more strategies forged in the shadows of power. And share this video with those who still think control is visible. Because by the time they realize it isn't, it will already be too late.